The schools that South Africans want to get their children into are full. They are full to overflowing, and in many places, even schools you don't want to get your children into are full. The bad news is this is not going to get any better. Over the next 10 years, over 50% of South African teachers are set to retire, so places in good schools are not likely to increase unless we find ways to increase the capacity of our schools. This video is about a golden opportunity to increase school capacity by including an important but neglected school sector, independent micro schools. Since the 1990s, there has been a rise in alternative forms of basic education in South Africa, including homeschooling, online schooling, hybrid education, and independent micro schools. Independent micro schools are more commonly known as cottage schools, tutor centres, homeschool centres, or micro schools. Independent microschooling is, however, not homeschooling, although there is some interesting history about how this confusion arose. Homeschooling is where a learner receives their education at home. If, however, they're receiving their education, perhaps sometimes even using a so-called homeschooling program, primarily at a centre that is away from their home or at a place that's away from their home that is run like a school, then they are attending an independent micro school. In research that's been done, 93% of them cater to students with special educational needs or to learners who haven't thrived in the conventional schooling setting. They offer multi-grade environments. Learning is often tailored to the individual needs of the learner, and this is done by using alternative curricula or approaches. And even where the National Curriculum Statement, or CAPS, is used, this curriculum is then adapted. The CAPS curriculum is then adapted to the pacing and to the needs of the individual learner. These schools are also often located nearby registered public and independent schools and cooperate with them, accepting and enrolling learners whose needs cannot be accommodated in the larger environment of the public and independent school. And the most obvious characteristic of these schools is that they are small, with limited physical space and staff, making it difficult for them to meet the large school-based criteria when registering. However, most of the schools that provide this invaluable service are not registered. This is despite the fact that 80% of the schools want to register. The registration itself is unaffordable. The cost of registration for a micro school could amount to as much as 170,000 Rand, and micro schools cannot meet the financial burden of registration in the way in which large conventional schools can. These schools then need different registration criteria from the large schools. This is where you can help. The Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, or BELA Bill, is going through Parliament at the moment. It has passed through the National Assembly and is now before the Select Committee that deals with education in the National Council of Provinces. You can help independent micro schools get registered by making a submission on the BELA Bill. In your submission, you can ask that a regulatory framework be created that will allow for the registration of independent micro schools. The Education First Research Group has identified 5 key high-impact changes that can be made to the BELA Bill. Specific provisions can be added to the BELA Bill that instruct the MECs to issue instructions for the registration of independent micro schools. The right to use alternative curricula, education approaches, and assessment processes and procedures should be protected. The best interests of the learner should be protected by including key principles of the Children's Act in Chapter 5 of the South African Schools Act. The increase in the penalty to 12 months should be removed from the bill. If you run such an unregistered school, if convicted, you could go to jail for 3 months. The BELA Bill increases this to 5 months. Unregistered independent institutions should be included in dispute resolution processes with the provincial education departments. These proposals are spelled out in a submission the Education First Research Group is making to Parliament. You can support this effort by supporting this submission. This is a lot to ask, but please stand up for this important education sector that helps so many learners. This is how to do it. If you go to the links in the description, you will find the Education First Research Independent Micro School submission. You'll also find a template that will guide you on how to make a submission. Over 70 independent micro schools have been closed in the last few years in Gauteng alone, so many schools are scared to write in. This is one reason the Education First Research Group is standing up for these schools and why Learn Free is helping them. So you can identify yourself as a supporter of these schools when you write to the National Council of Provinces. All you need to do is follow the template and send your submission in. You can help spread this message by subscribing, liking, sharing, and commenting. If you don't know what to comment, just please leave us an encouraging word. Thank you very much.